Hello everyone, this is JinJinx, one of the Monster Hunter math guys. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what the actual endgame raw longsword meta sets look like. Now with the new god decos that exist in the game, you might not be able to make this set, so I'll also be showing off more attainable versions of it. And I suppose this should go without saying, but these are endgame sets that require you to fight endgame monsters, so we'll be mentioning endgame monsters, so spoilerinos and whatnot. And before you ask, no, the Hellish Slasher is not a part of any of these sets. But fear not, because tomorrow I have a video where I'm going to be systematically, numerically, and mathematically breaking down why the Hellish Slasher is not that great a longsword. It's not even in the top 3 longswords in the game, but I keep seeing people talk about how good it is, why it's good, and defending all of these points that are objectively incorrect. And just to be clear, I'm not saying don't use the Hellish Slasher because you like it. It is the most aesthetically pleasing longsword in the game to me, and if you enjoy using it, then use it. It's a game you're supposed to enjoy yourselves. But all this talk of it being the best longsword in the game, of it dealing the most damage, of it being the most comfortable, all of these things are factually incorrect and need to stop because they're misinformation. Play what you like and enjoy yourselves, but if you are telling people something that is untrue, you are spreading misinformation. So hopefully we'll be able to squash this epidemic of misinformation I've been seeing go around with, well, a lot of math. Numbers don't lie and all that. So yeah, meta sets today, explaining why Slasher isn't that good tomorrow. But before we get into all of that, just a quick reminder, we do have a Twitter where we post updates about videos and various little memes we make, and Tuna does also stream almost every day over at twitch.tv/TunaTaco. Other than sharing this video with your friends, following us on those 2 platforms is one of the best ways you can help support the channel completely for free. Okay, so before we systematically break down why all of these Hellish Slasher claims are incorrect, let's just talk about what actually is the meta option. The best longsword in the game by a big degree is going to be the Gold Rathian Longsword. The Gold Rathian Longsword basically beats out every other raw option in basically every situation in the game. This is because the Gold Rathian Longsword is a disgusting stat stick of a weapon. At 290 true raw with buckets of natural white sharpness, this thing has as much raw as a Brute Tigrex or Diablos weapon, in other words the cap that melee weapons can hit. Except, you know, this one has positive affinity because reasons. Oh, and did we mention it also deals poison damage as a bonus? And poison is actually surprisingly strong in Master Rank. Yes, even in end game. And it has slots. Literally the only thing not good about this weapon is it can't hit purple sharpness, but as we discussed in our previous video, purple sharpness isn't a really big deal for raw weapons. Now, because this thing is such a stat stick at every single stage in the game compared to any other competitive raw option, this weapon is within the same EFR. And we're talking like sub 1% lower EFR than other competitive options, which is more than made up for by the poison damage. But Jinx, you might say, what about poison immune monsters? Certainly against a poison immune monster, you might want to use a raw version instead because you do hit higher EFR even if only marginally. And the answer is yes, you do. But the better question is how many monsters in the game are actually fully immune to poison? Well, it's one. It's Snora Magdaros. Which means the only situation you would not use this over other options is, well, Zora Magdaros. Also, I think a very important discussion to have very quickly is to explain how strong poison actually is. Now, poison isn't strong enough for you to waste efficiency in your build and use a much higher poison weapon like a Puke weapon just because you want to have more poison procs. But it is a lot stronger than you might think and more than makes up any EFR differences this weapon versus a different weapon would have. If you have ever heard anyone tell you the Gold Rathian weapon does not apply in all monster situations, that's simply because they do not understand how powerful poison is and they don't understand how poison math works. So our current estimates on monster HP are around 16,000 to 19,000 depending on monster. We'll just go with 19,000 to show the worst case scenario. That means for one poison proc throughout the entire hunt, you're dealing 2.74% of the monster's HP at the high end with a 3-star weak monster. And for a 2-star monster, 1.68%, etc, etc. And keep in mind, this is the high end of the HP. If a monster has a lower HP than this, you are dealing an even higher percentage of their max health with poison. Now you can essentially equivocate this to an EFR gain in terms of how quickly you kill the monster. So 1% of max health dealt through poison is 1% less you have to cut through with your raw damage, and it's effectively a 1% increase in EFR, at least in terms of clearing the monster's HP. Now, in order for you to have that same damage increase matched by gains in raw damage, your EFR has to be 2.74% higher. That's quite a bit. That's about roughly equal to 10 to 11 true raw on most endgame builds. Now, the differential between the Gold Rathian weapons and pretty much all the other raw builds at different stages in the game is all around 1% higher EFR if less. This means even on monsters that are 1-star weak to poison, you only need 2 poison procs to beat that with the Gold Rathian weapon, which, let's be honest, you're gonna get at least 2 poison procs with master rank monsters. So yeah, Gold Rathian beats every single weapon handily unless you're fighting Zora Magdaros. Alright, let's take a closer look at the actual meta sets. So this is the endgame build, the most optimal raw longsword can get, but it does require you to be over MR 100. This set does run peak performance 3, and without a health augment on your Gold Rathian Longsword, you will not be able to maintain peak very well. The G-Rath Longsword is going to be an R12 weapon, meaning you have to get materials from MR 100 plus to be able to get a health augment. And this set does also require an attack 2 deco, which is basically god tier. Now, if you're hitting softened weak points, this has 741.048 EFR. And due to the natural affinity as well as the agitator and the overcapping on crit eye, we actually have 92% affinity on non-softened weak points and 724.10976 EFR. And for those of you wondering how the Hellish Slasher at its absolute most optimal compares to this, it's 0.25% stronger. Which means if you proc poison even once on a monster, the G-Wrath is better. But we will cover that more in depth tomorrow. But let's finish talking about this endgame build. There are 3 flex decos in here, the flawless last protection of vitality I have in this particular set. Now, if you don't have any flawless combo decos, you can use critical combo decos, or you can use tenderizer combo decos instead. Slot in whatever you find nicest. The vitality ones are probably the best. And yes, I know people are gaga over the idea of using quick sheath with longsword because of the EI slashes. But Quick Sheath 3 only saves you 5 frames at 30 FPS on your EI special sheath, which means it only saves you 1/6 of a second. Now, I'll completely admit I have not messed around too much with Longsword yet, so I don't really know how significant saving 1/6 of a second is for your EI timings. But personally, I would go with Vitality combo decos instead. Now, until you've managed to farm up health augments for your R12 weapon, this is what your set will look like instead. Basically, instead of running peak, we do get an extra agitator and attack boost out of this set. Now, you can't get the agitator 4 charm until MR 100, so you'll be using an agitator 3 charm right now if you have it, otherwise an attack boost 3. Just change some of your attack boost combo decos into challenger combo decos if you do not have this agitator charm. Assuming we don't lose any points doing so, you should always be trying to get agitator in before attack. Also, this set, like any other mid-endgame set I'll be showing you, does not assume you have the god decos like attack double decos or agitated double decos, because those are just so freaking rare. And even if you don't have combo challenger or attack decos, you can just slot in the normal versions instead. The only technically high efficiency rare deco in here is the expert double deco, but you get that as part of the story anyway. As you can see, the armor pieces themselves don't actually change, but that's because this is the standard meta set for raw weapons right now. You barely gain anything from not running Master's Touch with the current armor pieces we have available, so Master's Touch is very, very strong. This longsword has 16 natural units of white sharpness, which is a lot, and on top of that, your Master's Touch means that with either your 112 or 92% affinity, you never lose sharpness. This hits 711.48 EFR on softened weak points and 701.316 EFR on non-softened weak points. This is roughly 4% lower EFR than the optimal set we just showed off. But now you might be wondering, what do I use before MR 70? Surely this is the time I use the Hellish Slasher, right? Well, no. What you want to be using is the Shara Longsword, the Radiant Flow. You'll probably notice this is the exact set we showed off for the early endgame post-story meta set video. This set, compared to the best set you can make with the Hellish Slasher pre-Master Rank 70, is stronger. This mostly comes down to the fact that you have purple sharpness, which is not a huge gain, but is enough for this to take the lead. And also you get access to Shara much sooner than the Hellish Slasher, and at least in our opinion, it's much easier to farm Shara. We even made an entire guide covering that. Conversely, arena farming can be very bleh. Also, just to clarify, the handicraft charm in the builder is set to handicraft 4, however the only one you'll have available at this time is a handicraft 3 charm, which is why we also have 2 handicraft decos in the set. Also, just to further clarify, at end game, the Shara Longsword does beat the Hellish Slasher, still making it a better option to run throughout if you don't want to use Gold Rathian, but Gold Rathian beats both. Really, the main issue with the Radiant Flow is you have to have 2 handicraft decos for this set to work. The handicraft charm only gives you 10 units of purple, which is really not enough, but at handicraft 5 you have 30 units with 100% affinity and you should be fine on your sharpness. Alright, those are the 3 meta sets you want to build for depending on what point in endgame you are at currently. That covers pretty much everything except for what you should use while going through the story, however we already have a video covering that. Okay, that's all of the meta sets for Longsword. We will have more meta set videos rolling out very soon, and tomorrow I do also have that video explaining why Hellish Slasher really isn't that good. As always, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you have any friends who also love using the Weeb Stick, be sure to share the video with them. And if you enjoy these builds, be sure to like the video and leave a comment below. It really does help. And a huge thank you as always to Honey over at honeyhunterworld.com for creating and maintaining the tools we use to make sets with. All the build cards from this video did come from the beta for her Iceborne builder. The weapons, armor, as well as all the decorations are fully implemented into the beta builder now. However, there are still things that need to be implemented for the EFR calculator to be accurate, which is why I did manual EFR calculations for this video. Either way, Honey is working very hard to get this builder fully functioning, and it's still very good if you want to mess around with making sets or make pretty build cards. Definitely check out the beta builder and show her some love, she really deserves it. And don't forget, we do have a Discord server, the Mathless Nest, where a bunch of hunters hang out all the time, so you can find people to chat with, people to hunt with, and we do have Iceborne specific channels to make sure that other people don't get spoiled. And remember, we do have a Twitter where we post updates about videos and various memes like this, and Tuna does also have a Twitch where he streams almost every single day. And of course, none of this would be possible without the generosity of our patrons. And an especially huge thank you to our new patron, Ubiquitine. Each and every one of you patrons is a huge motivator to us to always be doing our best. So seriously, thank you guys all so much. Alright, for the moment, that is all of the raw meta sets for Longsword. We do of course have more of the meta series coming out for you guys soon, and tomorrow I do have that video talking about why Hellish Slasher is not that great. So if you want to see those as soon as they come out, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Also make sure to check the notification bell, that way YouTube tells you when things come out, because subscribe doesn't actually do that anymore. More accurately, what subscribe does is it just tells YouTube to go, hey, I like these things, show me more things like it. Alright, that's all I got for you on this one. Happy hunting, hunters. See you in the next one. Bye. Patron Ubiquitine?